My stepdaughter is 19 and absolutely hates me. I've been with her dad for 8 years and met him a year after he divorced her mother, but her and her mom both blame me for the divorce. They divorced because she cheated with his brother. I've made multiple efforts to bond with her, and she has nothing but bad things to say whenever I do. Example, in your dreams, go duck yourself. You'll never be my mom, so stop trying, etc. Despite this, I still try, and it's absolutely exhausting. Her father has spoken to her multiple times, but she truly doesn't care. On Wednesday, I was throwing my husband a surprise birthday party. I invited my sister-in-law, mother-in-law, and stepdaughter. My sister-in-law is hands down my best friend. My mother-in-law and I are civil, usually. My sister-in-law called it and said something bad was going to happen. She had a feeling, but I ignored it. I baked the cake and got him 4 gifts, one of which was an expensive watch he had his eye on for months. My sister-in-law came with me to buy it even. Long story short, when I was out on the back deck grilling, my stepdaughter was the only one inside, and the cake ended up being accidentally knocked off the counter, and the watch was gone. I asked her where it was, and she said the only watch she knew about was the one her mom bought for him. She wouldn't let me see it. Husband walks in halfway through the argument, and she hands him the watch I bought and said, "Mom knew you liked watches, so she got this for you." My sister-in-law was the first to speak up, saying that I had bought that watch and had my back 110%. My stepdaughter then goes into complete hysterics, saying that once again I was trying to bash her mother and take credit when all her mom wanted was to do something nice for the love of her life. I immediately told her to get out, and then showed my husband the receipts. She refused to leave and says she won't be told she can't be in her dad's home. I've owned this house for 21 years. My husband has my back and tells her to get out and not come back, and says he is done with her lying and trying to play matchmaker. My mother-in-law, who saw the whole thing, then starts berating me and blaming me for alienating her granddaughter, and says I'm the reason they don't have a relationship. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, when all her mom wanted was to do something nice for the love of her life. What the duck are your stepdaughter and her mom on? Your stepdaughter is more than old enough to learn some manners and treat you in a civil way. She doesn't have to like you, but should show basic respect. I'm assuming she can go to her mom's house after being kicked out, rightfully so. So it's not like she's out on the street. If your mother-in-law really cared about her relationship with your stepdaughter, she would make her own effort and call her out on her attitude towards you. Thank God for your sister-in-law and husband supporting you. Not the a-hole. A person of the age of 19 should learn to not get away with behavior like this. Her father has every right to throw her out in a heated moment like this, and so do you. Your mother-in-law should check her priorities she sets when being okay with behavior like this. Not the a-hole. Your stepdaughter is just like her mother. Time for her to no longer be allowed in the home, and time for you to make sure that she doesn't inherit your home. Talk to a lawyer about making sure she has no chance to inherit your home, should you pass first. I know there are legal ways to make that happen. Prefacing this by saying I don't like my brother. We do not have a good relationship, and the relationship we do have is only because of our parents. My parents live with me, and I want to be clear that this is a house that I own. I became friends with my brother's ex-girlfriend after they dated. She told me about how my brother's job as a surgeon stressed their relationship because he was so frugal because of his student loans. They could never spend time together because he worked so much, and how he was always emotional because he lost patience. The problem is, my brother isn't a surgeon. He's a lab technician, so he was just lying to her for whatever reason. My dad is disabled with limited mobility, which is why he lives with me. Due to that, if my brother wants to come see them, he has to come to my house. I'm fine with that. He has a right to see our parents, but he needs to recognize that it's still my house. He refuses to have our parents live with him, and he also doesn't contribute financially to their care. He brought his girlfriend to our house last year to introduce her to our parents, which also meant I met her. I remembered the thing with his previous girlfriend, so I asked her what she thought his career was. She didn't understand what I was getting at, until I explained. Turns out, he was lying to her about being a surgeon as well, and she was furious. They got into this massive fight, in which my brother claimed he was going to tell her sooner or later, but she was being a gold digger for being upset that he wasn't a surgeon. My brother wanted to introduce his latest girlfriend to my parents, without me around, but they refused to meet outside because of virus. So they Zoomed. I popped in and asked her what she thought his career was. She was confused and messaged me later to ask why I asked. When I explained what happened with his last 2 girlfriends, she broke up with him. He didn't lie to her, but she thought he was crazy for his previous lies. My brother thinks that me telling his ex about this means I'm not letting him grow from his mistakes. But in my defense, I just thought he was lying to her again. To be clear, while I dislike my brother, and certainly part of me thinks this is funny, most of this is because it's genuinely insane to me. I absolutely would want to know, even if completely unprovoked from my boyfriend's sister, that he's been lying for months to me. I would also want to know if he had a history of doing that. I don't want to lie or be complicit in my brother's lies to these poor women. My brother is obviously furious, and he insists that I never meet one of his girlfriends again. However, he expects me to leave my house or hide in my own home every time he wants to come see our parents, since they live with me, which is ridiculous. I told him I wasn't going to cater to him in my own home, and he can either Zoom them or deal with me being in my house. Not the a-hole. He shouldn't have lied in the first place. He certainly shouldn't have lied in the second place either, 'cause that's what happened in the first breakup. You telling the third ex about your suspicions are not wrong exactly, because you know he has a history of these petty lies. In my opinion, he seems to be not committed to a relationship at all. Not the a-hole. If your brother is going to be dishonest, he will have to learn the hard way that most people don't take kindly to that, and will rightfully wonder if he's going to lie about his job. What else is he lying about? These people he's lying to deserve to know he's a liar. Boyfriend and sister-in-law have known each other since almost literally birth. They have no romantic interest in each other, but they love each other and are dear friends, and have been their entire lives. Sister-in-law and brother live in blank country, which boyfriend and I visited to see his family. Prior to the trip, I didn't know his brother and sister-in-law well. She spent most of the time subtly excluding me, getting ice cream I was allergic to, directing most conversations to brother and boyfriend, making plans, and then just informing me of what was going to happen. Lots of reminiscing, with no explaining anything. Chatting with boyfriend while I'm in the car about how his exes are doing. Boyfriend was very upset at me because I was stressed for most of the trip, trying to figure out how to fit in when he wasn't doing a great job of helping, and didn't see what his sister-in-law was doing. Not saying I didn't screw up, but I had help. It's really important to him that his family and his partner get along, and it really bothered him that I was so stressed, and that sister-in-law didn't like me for him. More background. I got divorced a few years ago. It sucked. I spent a lot of time by myself to relearn how to be entirely myself, and then slowly started talking to dudes again. Sister-in-law wants us to break up because 1. I didn't date enough people before I met boyfriend. 2. We are moving too fast. We see each other 3 days a week, and are discussing moving in together this spring, when we will have been together for over 2 years. Now the question. My mother, who is neither my Facebook friend nor boyfriend's Facebook friend, gets a notification that sister-in-law has gone through her Facebook and liked some photos. She'd have had to go looking for my mother. And they were my wedding photos. Just the wedding photos, nothing else. So I'd like to bring this up to boyfriend because it's really bothering me, and it feels like she's playing a game. But I also don't want to be girl who makes waves with family, as I suspect that might be a part of the game. Let me point out the problems, subtle crap she is doing, and look crazy, so she can be right about us needing to break up. How would you all handle this one? Or am I being crazy? That's also viable. I know you say that sister-in-law and boyfriend have no romantic feelings, but is it possible that sister-in-law has some romantic feelings for your boyfriend? I realize she is married to your boyfriend's brother, but I cannot think of any other reason for her to be so manipulative and shady. Also, why is it so important that she like you? Who told you she wants y'all to break up? Did she really tell your boyfriend y'all should break up and then list the reasons? This is some next-level crazy crap. I'd straight up ask about the photos. Something like, my mom got a notification that someone she didn't know had liked some of my old wedding photos. She didn't recognize the name and asked me if it was an old friend of mine, but it was actually sister-in-law. Don't be accusatory, merely puzzled. I'd be curious what his reaction to such an odd thing was. Backstory. I'm adopted after my parents fostered me when I was 14. I'm 22 now. Before I came around, my dad Devin had another family. He's gay and was married to Michael. Together, they had Vanessa. Unfortunately, my dad did use D, and it broke up their marriage. He promised to go to rehab, but his husband left him and took Vanessa. Since she is biologically Michael's, he threatened to expose my dad at court for his D use if he didn't give him full custody. Vanessa was 3 when her parents split, and my dad did not see her after that. He went to rehab and has been sober for over 20 years. He remarried his second husband, my other dad, Colin, and they fostered me, later adopting me. Sadly, Colin passed when I was 17, so it was just me and my dad after that. However, I lost him to virus this year. My dad owned a bakery that he started with his first husband, but first husband sold him his share during the divorce. My other dad, Colin, wasn't involved in the business, but was very supportive. I loved baking and helped my dad in his bakery, and he told me that someday it would be mine. After his death, I did my best to keep it going since he willed it to me, and it's struggling, but I'm staying afloat. He had also willed a bit of money to Vanessa, but not the bakery. He tried reaching out when she was 18, but she told him he was dead to her. I knew about Vanessa, but never met her, and my dad always talked fondly of her. I even knew he willed her some money because even if she wanted nothing to do with him, I guess he hoped it would make up for not being there. Anyway, I finally met her at the will reading, and she was mad that she only got money while I got the whole business. She asked me if I would be willing to sell it and split the profit. Since we are sisters, it should be ours, not yours. I don't know her. I literally just met her. I told her no because Dad wanted me to have it and I wanted to keep it going. She told me that it's rightfully hers since her parents started it together, not to some random a-hole he took off the streets. I know my dad loved her and talked about how much he missed her, but she says she's entitled to it after all the suffering he put her through. I don't want to sell, but I don't want to screw her over either. Am I really the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Don't let her screw you out of a business that you have put your heart, sweat, and tears into over many years. Please stand your ground. She is looking for more money, probably for emotional reasons, but that is not a reason to give in. Your dad made this decision. If you love him, then you should respect his will and final wishes. Good luck. Won't make this long. My mom died when I was 6, and my dad remarried when I was 7. Within 3 years, he was remarried with another kid, and another on the way, when he died. His wife wanted me to be raised by her alongside her children. My grandparents from my mom's side wanted me with them. A custody battle ensued, and I was spoken to at the time. I said I wanted to live with my family, aka my grandparents. The judge agreed it was the best decision if I was given what I wanted. Apparently, they had quite a few runaways who were in homes they didn't want to be in. Some contact with my half-siblings was maintained via my grandparents on my dad's side, but I never saw my dad's wife as a mother, and I didn't see her as a person I needed or wanted in my life. She wanted me, though, and grandparents on my dad's side have tried talking me into letting her be my mom. They weren't fond of my mom, and they hate my grandparents for taking custody and not leaving me with my dad's wife to be adopted and raised as her kid. They believe I would have changed how I saw her eventually, had I stayed with her. I graduated high school a couple of weeks ago. My grandparents wanted to go with her and the kids. Tickets were only given via students this year, and I refused to get any for her. They tried to get them through other means, but couldn't. Ever since graduation, which they all missed because I didn't want to get a ticket for her, they've been pissed. She was on my grandma's phone once and cried about how I broke her heart and how I was such an important and special part of her life, and all she wanted was for me to be her daughter. My grandparents have asked how I don't care more about doing that to the woman my dad loved with all his heart and started a family with. Am I the a-hole for what I did? Not the a-hole. Much like a wedding, invite who you want, not who other people want. You wanted your family there, and you don't consider her family. Period.